Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we forget to come up with introductions.
Because this week we watched A Deep Breath, written by Steven Moffat.
Directed by Ben Wheatley.
It aired on August 23rd, 2014. Yep.
Much like it seems like Steven Moffat forgot to come up with an introduction for the 12th Doctor in this episode.
Yeah, well, maybe that's one thing we can kind of touch on at the end or talk about, is that, I don't know, it feels like, well, whoever was, the one responsible for this, whether it was Steven Moffat, Peter Capaldi, or someone else.
Pretty sure it was Moffat.
It feels like the 12th Doctor's sort of introduction to like, hey, he's acting really off because of the regeneration is like turned up to 12.
I see what you did there. Pretty sure it was Moffat, to be honest. All signs point to Moffat. All roads lead to Moffat, you might say.
All Doctor Who roads lead to Steven Moffat.
Yep.
That's strange because the 11th Doctor's version of this didn't feel all that. Well, actually, I take that back.
11th hour. The Doctor was like knocked out and he ate fish fingers and custard. There was that whole like 5-minute scene where he was just trying different foods.
Yeah, I was surprised actually that this. We should probably talk about production first.
Well, there's not much production around the actual episode.
Yeah, even the Shannon Sullivan site has like a TBA thing on the production.
Yeah, I think they gave up once they got to the 12th Doctor. I mean, there's basically nothing for this episode, at least. Some of the other ones later on, there's more interesting stuff. But this one was like Steven Moffat had an idea and he wrote it, and that was it.
I mean, also, a lot of older episode production info that's online comes from like people 20 or 30 years later being like, yeah, I remember when we made blank episode, and here's what happened when we did that. And these are pretty recent. We're now within like the last 5 years.
Yeah, this is the first episode that I watched live, and also the first episode that aired after this podcast was started.
Yeah, so we're almost there. The finish line is in sight.
But I don't know about that. Finish line's like finish line's in sight if you have like a telescope or binoculars.
What mile is this of the marathon of the 26.2?
21.
Like 22?
22. You could compute it. We watched 800 of about 850-ish episodes and just multiply that fraction by 26.2 and boom, Bob's your uncle. The title sequence, though, had some interesting production around it because it was actually a fan.
By some rando on YouTube.
Yeah, it was created by a fan, and then Steven Moffat was like, hey, that's really cool. You want to come help us make it for the actual show? And he's like, duh, of course, yes.
I think he said he thought it was like a scam at first or something, or he didn't believe it, that it was really happening at first.
To be fair, if Steven Moffat emails or calls you on the phone and is like, hey, I'm Steven Moffat, and we want you to come work on Doctor Who, I'd probably think that's a scam too. Well, what province of Nigeria are you from?
Just forward this BBC bank account, 100,000 pounds, I guess. I guess it would be less than that, since that's like, what, $200,000?
Well, I think it looks really cool. I really like it. It looks like the gears of a clock.
One,
really?
Like ever.
I disagree. The previous one we had before this with Matt Smith's face that they're flying through a freaking solar flares and it's like, what's going on?
When I found out it was made by a fan, I was like, makes sense. No wonder it's one, so different, and two, so not up to par with like the
if I'm going to throw
some
credit to the fan, the actual like fan version that inspired Moffat to do this looks way better than the version that we get on TV. So,
well, Steven Moffat had this really like conceited comment of like, this is the first like major change in the Doctor Who theme since 1963.
I don't agree with that at all.
Neither do I. But there's also this stuff in this episode that we're going to touch on that gets kind of meta, of like, has Doctor Who changed incrementally, but so much to the point where it's unrecognizable? I think most people can just like answer that with like, yeah, it has.
Well, I really like the theme song too, as well, which I know you mentioned it.
It's like the weakest.
It's more of a throwback to the Delia Derbyshire days than we've had since Delia Derbyshire.
Yeah, but I like the newer era's throwback to that theme more than this one.
Just
looking ahead a little bit.
Each their own.
But I mean, we can kind of describe it you're like you zoom out of like a clock, but the clock is also a spiral, and then you go into like another.
Yeah, it's basically combining the time vortex of the previous theme with a clock. We fly through the gears. We see Peter Capaldi's fierce eyebrows for a flash second there.
Yeah, yeah.
And we see the names on this kind of blue sort of background. Looks
Yeah,
kind of like
the font is
well, this blue background is
Questionable.
definitely a throwback to the early title sequences that were just psychedelic looking things that had no purpose.
I mean, this is pretty psychedelic. They all pretty much have been. But the font like kind of annoys me.
Font's a little weird. I'm gonna give you that one. Although, to be honest, I never really noticed the font because I didn't really pay attention to the titles of the episode. Is Doctor Who like the only television show still running that displays the title of the episode in the beginning of the episode?
I don't know. I don't watch any modern TV shows.
Because I can't think of, like, when I'm watching TV these days, the title of the episode actually ever showing up. I guess I was listening to Star Trek Discovery, but I don't actually remember ever saying the title of the episode in the title sequence, just who wrote the episode.
Well, Doctor Who titles are like way more important than any other show. For whatever reason. Probably just because of the long history of
I guess. It took me a long time to figure out what the title of this episode was referring to.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't get it on my first watch through. I was like, that's kind of weird. So I just thought it was completely unrelated to the episode at hand.
So take a deep breath. You're not going to like what you see. Which
Well, it
takes
wasn't
us into
bad.
the content of the episode.
I didn't think it was bad.
It wasn't bad. But, if you're watching these on Amazon, or like, I guess the official BBC description, like, really plays up how this is an extended, intro to the season. And I was like, cool, the, extra 30 minutes on the episode. But it turns out,
You know what they did with that extra 30 minutes? They told us what Clara was thinking about every minute of the day.
Well, no, they just added, like, extra 30 minutes of people bickering.
Yeah, mostly Clara. Mostly Clara bickering with everybody in the story.
No, with the 12th Doctor.
But that's relevant to the plot of like, who is this?
I mean,
who's the Doctor? Does she accept the Doctor?
I mean, I'll just say it now. Well, two things I'll say now. One, really, really strange direction to take Clara's character. Like, really odd.
Okay, I warned you.
This is like Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3 with what's his name and Elizabeth, where it's like they become pirate lords.
Okay, I warned you. I definitely warned you.
And two is, I'm not really going to judge the 12th Doctor yet. I'm going to wait until next week or maybe the week after, because I feel like the regeneration oddness was played up to, like I mentioned before, 12.
Yeah, it
And
definitely
I don't think we have a
was.
taste of the real 12th Doctor yet, or the 12th Doctor that we're going to get for the rest of his run yet.
Well, he has actual character development, so even the Doctor this season isn't identical to the Doctor next season because he's going to actually grow and change as a character.
Whoa.
Surprise. Surprise. Unlike Clara, who's just bickering with everyone in this episode. I didn't remember how bad it was till I watched this episode. I was like, Jesus Christ, Moffat, tone it back.
Yeah, is there one, like, companion that they can keep consistent from their, first kind of segment to the next? Because, you think back to Rose, and for sure, no. Amy, no.
Well, Martha, yeah.
Martha, yeah.
Actually, Martha just got more awesome between appearances because she joined the unit and became, like, commander of unit, so...
But even, like, Donna, her first appearance in The Runaway Bride was so different than...
Yeah, but she changed for the better.
Yeah.
Because Russell T was like, God, Donna was a twat.
Jesus.
That's what I imagined.
Jesus.
Russell T lying in his bed at night going, damn, I really created like a really divisive character there.
Anyway, this episode starts with a T-Rex in London.
Stampeding
Victorian
through London. Yeah. And we see...
It's huge. It's probably like twice the size of Big Ben.
Yeah. Well, I guess it looks bigger because we don't really have like modern day landmarks to compare it against since it's Victorian.
Well, like that
London.
building, I think, has stayed the same size.
Okay, the one building that's recognizable.
But like that building too is like skyscraper in height. Not skyscraper in height, but it's like a huge building. It's like many stories high. And this thing is like
but
twice
it's
the size.
exceeded by a lot by the Eiffel Tower.
And that glass building that we
The
still don't know
Millennium
the
Tower.
name of.
Pretty sure it's
No,
the
it wasn't.
Millennium
No,
Tower.
it wasn't. Maybe it was. I don't remember.
Or was the Millennium Tower some unrelated tower
There's like
in
5
London?
Millennium Towers all over the world.
Great. But we
It
see
was the Millennium Bridge that was in.
England.
Yeah, was it in?
Don't forget about
I can't remember if
Millennium
it was
Silver.
in Dublin or London.
It's in the UK. There we go.
Well, Dublin's
Problem
not in
solved.
the UK. It's in what's it called?
Is
It's
it
in
in
Ireland,
the
but
Republic of or Northern Ireland?
no, it's in
Nope.
Dublin, which is in regular Ireland. There's Republic of Ireland, and then there's
Ireland?
Ireland.
Ireland?
I guess, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, then it's on the island of Great Britain.
It's on the Ireland.
Island's named Great Britain, right? That's the name of the island? What's the actual name of
I think
that island?
Great Britain is just the conglomeration of England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. That's
So
Great
the
Britain.
UK.
And yeah,
So what's the island called?
I don't know. I don't know if it has a name. The southern part of it is just Ireland. Which, like, if you say fast, kind of sounds like just island. And there's Iceland, which is not far away.
I think Iceland's a little further away than you give it credit for.
Like, on the grand scale of things.
Okay, you could always construct a bigger scale to make things to look close. Like on the cosmic scale, we're like right next to England.
Yep. Speaking of things looking close, this is the first story that's between 2 Dalek stories since the 60s.
Yeah.
Since Mission to... what was it? Mission to the Unknown? I believe it was called. Almost said Mission to Destiny. Good Blake 7 episode. 54124.
Thanks for that.
The one I always forget isn't written by Chris Boucher.
Yeah, it's written by
Because
Terry
it
Nation.
really feels like Chris Boucher wrote that episode.
Terry Nation does Chris Boucher. Well, we see Vastra, and she says
Jenny.
that she saw the dinosaurs when she was a little girl. Jenny's like, wow, it's bigger than I thought. I've seen fossils. And Jenny's like, I was there. It's the right size, I guess. Then the dinosaur coughs up the TARDIS, and they go running down, and they're like, oh, we better get the doctor out. And Strax is like, come out. The doctor pops out and is like, I'm busy. There's a dinosaur chasing us, but I think I've lost her. He goes back in, and he comes back out and is like, wait a minute, who are you? He's like, who are you? Then they're like, who's this? Who are you? Who am I? Who are we? The doctor just kind of stumbles around. He's like, the green one and the not green one, but you might be green. I don't know. Don't want to discriminate. He talks about the dinosaur, and then he passes out. Clara's like,
comes
this
out
is
of
the
the
doctor.
TARDIS and says she needs help.
Clara's wearing a bow tie patterned sweater, I guess.
Let him glow. Let him glow? Whoa.
What?
Let him go, Clara.
I mean, that's kind of the theme of this whole episode.
It's the new Let Her Go, Moffat, which was the new Let Her Go, Russell T. Let him go, Clara.
It's kind of the theme of the whole episode.
Feels like it's kind of going to be the theme of, and I hope it won't be, but I'm not making any bets. Feels like it's going to be the theme of the whole season.
Who knows?
So they go back to Vastra's place,
I guess.
mansion. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a mansion.
It's probably a mansion.
It's got 2 stories in Victorian England.
Victorian
London.
London. Yeah.
I mean, London's in England,
Yeah, but
so...
I mean, if you go out on the countryside, I feel like it's not that uncommon to have like a 2-story mansion.
I guess.
But like within London, probably is. I'm just making that up. I don't know for sure. I would guess
Spreading
that I'm
false
right.
information on this podcast.
I would
Great.
guess that I'm right. The doctor wonders why they have an entire room devoted to sleeping in beds.
Yeah, he's kind of confused about this setup, even though you would think that the doctor's seen a bedroom before.
Well, it's just the regeneration oddness. Which, again, this is the thing of, like, it's played up so much. The doctor wonders why they decorate the room when all they do is sleep in there. Which made me think, isn't, like, not having anything in your room, like, one of the signs of being a sociopath? or something. Or am I just making that up too? I don't know.
I don't know about that one.
Speaking of having a lot of stuff in your room,
Hang on, wait,
mind. I'm not going to dive into that.
Wait. It took me a second to realize where that was going.
I've been somewhat obsessed with quote unquote. It's a real term.
So the doctor then, Vastra tricks him into going into sleep by psychically linking with him, and then he passes out.
Yeah, Vastra seems to have a lot of, not powers, but just like insight in this episode that she hasn't really had in the past. Maybe that's not true. I don't know.
She seems to know a lot about regeneration, more so than the one person in the room who should be an expert on this, Clara. So...
Why should she be an expert?
Because she literally jumped into the Doctor's timeline and saw all 11/12 incarnations of his life. She literally knows everything about regeneration. She literally saw three doctors at once in the Day of the Doctor.
Did she forget all of that? Or no? I don't remember.
No.
Was there something that like made her forget about that entire thing?
No, because she made reference to it in Time of the Doctor. Because she literally references the fact that she's only seen 11 faces, and the Doctor's like, are you forgetting the grumpy one? And she's like, okay, but that's still only 12. And he's like, oh yeah, 10th Doctor regenerated into himself.
Yeah, I guess making this decision even more odd.
Yeah. It was my whole episode. I just sat there going, why? Why is Clara being so like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Why was this written into the show? Why is this a part of this episode?
I mean, what I want to say is, why is Clara being such an ass about this? But why is she being so stubborn? Entitled and egotistical, like the Doctor says.
Maybe it's just a throwback of just like Rose was in her second season.
Rose knew nothing about.
We have to bring Clara into this odd sort of mindset.
Rose knew nothing about regeneration, though. So.
No, I mean just like change up her character. Versus, I guess this is a throwback to like Rose being like, what's
Steven
going
Moffat
on?
does Rose.
So now Vastra and Jenny take Clara off and try to describe what's going on.
They're like, he regenerated, and she's like, how do we change him back? And one of my notes is like, literally, you don't. Like, you should know this. You've seen all his incarnations.
I guess this is a difference of like watching everything as some sort of like weird voyeur type presence versus like actually living through it.
I guess, but if that was the intention, it's not made clear at all. I was going to say it's not made very clear, but it's just not made clear at all.
Yeah, so, I mean, I forget. I guess I don't forget, because it really is just kind of bickering back and forth here.
Yeah, Clara just bickers with him, and they're like, you were clearly flirting with him, and now he's an old man. And she's like, I don't like young men. It's what she said. It's like, I don't like young men. A picture of Marcus Aurelius on my wall, and I'm like, wow.
There's a bit here where Clara says something very fast, and I didn't get any of it.
She basically insinuates that Vastra's flirting with her.
Oh, there was one interesting thing.
Again, that like egomania that the Doctor brings up later, like it kind of makes me think the Doctor was actually right there. I thought he was just being kind of like mean, I guess, but
the Doctor's kind of mean.
A little bit.
Yeah, he's with that homeless guy, but we'll get there. So, the one interesting thing in this scene is Vastra mentions veils, and she says that she's actually married to Jenny, which we already knew, but that they just keep up this appearance of
Jenny being the housemaid, basically.
Right. And I was like, really? That seems like a bit more than just a veil or a cover. And then Jenny's like, seems like more than just a cover to me, since I'm pouring the tea and I'm dressed like a Victorian maid.
And Vastra's like, Maybe Vastra's just into it, and it's just her cover for making Jenny dress up as a maid.
Well, it really does seem that way later on with the whole painting scene, but hey. It does seem like there's some sort of power play in all of this. true.
I feel like I know a lot more about Vastra and Jenny's relationship after this story than I really ever wanted to know.
So Clara just kind of goes off and tries to deal with her own inner demons, but the doctor wakes up, takes a deep breath upon this. This is what the title of the episode is referring to. It's pretty obvious. When he wakes up, he goes, and that's what it is. That's the deep breath. I don't know why you didn't get that. But no, he goes up to the roof. And the dinosaur is still rampaging.
He basically promises the dinosaur he's going to get it home, and then it just explodes in fire, and he's like, shoot.
Yeah, I didn't mention this before, but the dinosaur looks really good. The CG is on point. Really starting off strong.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if the CG budget and quality kind of drops off after this, but good on them.
Well, this was a longer episode, so probably had a little higher of a budget.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a season opener. I wish the dinosaurs in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship were like this.
They weren't that bad.
Yeah, but that bad isn't good or great.
All right. Sure.
And they had to be on screen for more time than this did, so I get it. I like how in these scenes where we're seeing like the early 1900s, late 1800s London skyline, you just see like factories pumping pollutants into the air. Very true to the time period.
If you don't get lung cancer, have you even lived in Victorian London? How many people do you think died of lung cancer in Victorian London, but they just didn't know what it was, so they just like chalked it up to some mysterious illness they didn't know?
They knew what cancer was back then, right? Or
they?
No, I don't know, actually. I don't know.
And if they did,
maybe
even if they did, they would have had no way of detecting lung cancer. So.
I guess, yeah.
Not like MRIs were a thing back then. That I can say with confidence.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to look up the history of cancer, because now that you mention it, I don't know.
When was cancer discovered? And when it was discovered, why did they name it cancer?
Maybe it was discovered like within the sign of Cancer.
But that's not the real
Cancer
question.
just means crab, right?
Yeah, it does. The real question is, were
Doctor
there any
Who.
similar murders like the...
I half expected that, honestly. Half expected it.
What did the other half of you expect?
Something else.
But that's what the
I was
doctor
covering
does.
my bases. It was either Doctor Who or something else.
Great. So
It's anything.
basically what you're saying is it could have been literally anything.
Yeah.
But the doctor's like, have there been any similar murders? And then Vastra's like, well, yes, actually. But yeah, there have been.
And the doctor runs off. He's like, gotta go find some newspapers in back alleys.
Actually, what he does is he just jumps into the River Thames. He's like, peace. And they're like, wait, what?
But since this takes place during, what are they called? Snow festival.
An ice fair. We're going to see one of those in a couple seasons.
Frozen over and he face plants.
And snaps his neck.
He generates into Jodie Whittaker.
Right here, right now.
No, he jumps in. He dives into this era.
Yeah, that's where deep breath comes from. You got to take a deep breath before you dive into the River Thames.
Yeah.
Which is probably freezing.
So it feels like
the doctor's...
a while passes, maybe a day or a few hours.
Yeah, I think it's like a day, because it's nighttime now.
Clara has been indoctrinated into the servants of Vastra world order.
Well, Jenny mentions that the Paternoster regulars are out looking for the doctor, and I'm like, I guess that's where Conan Doyle gets the Baker Street irregulars from in this timeline.
Yeah. She gets a medical examination from Strax,
who indicates
adding in
that
more of that Strax humor.
Strax humor on this episode was pretty on point, except for the fact that he calls Clara boy 3 separate times in this episode.
Well, it's that typical Strax humor where it's just like, it's the same jokes reiterated.
Yeah,
Just
when he's like,
is
we
it
will
funny
bring the
now?
doctor here and melt him with acid.
Is it funny yet?
Actually,
Is it funny now?
the funniest thing I've seen in Doctor Who to this point was when Strax is like, I got the newspaper, want me to set it up? And Clara's like, yep. And he just chucks it upstairs and hits her in the face, and she face plants on the floor. I don't know why that was so funny, because I just fell over laughing when that happened.
Maybe it's because of how insufferable Clara was being, so, some nice physical comedy.
Clara deserved it. But then she gets a physical examination where we find out Clara is probably imagining lots of young boys doing things that we can't mention on this family-friendly podcast.
That's how they discovered the cancer, was Strax. Because he examines her lungs, and he's like, oh, wait, this is actually the deep breath. He's like, you look like you have some... What is he? He mentions her lungs in some capacity in this scene.
I don't know, but he basically mentions that she's set to live to the ripe old age of, and then Clara's like, I'm going to stop you right there. We also find out Clara's 27 in this episode.
Yeah. But, I mean, like you mentioned, we get a little look into her psyche, which is, according to Strax, filled with, like, narcissism, something else, and then, young men
doing what could be considered sport, but I think the adults in the audience know what they're doing.
So, yeah, I mean, you get the idea that, like, all right, the overall narrative isn't being kind to Clara in this moment. Or in this episode, really.
Also, you kind of realize later the Doctor is actually being accurate in his assessment of her. You thought he was just being facetious? Nope, turns out she might actually just be kind of egomaniacal, which is something we've never seen before on the show, so that's kind of weird.
Another odd direction, because, I mean... I've mentioned this week after week, but Clara was like one of the most heroic companions.
And that's still in this episode, I think.
I think so. Well, yeah, I guess it is.
We just get all this other spicy sauce
I guess it's like
on top.
Overshadowed by this.
Well, I hope you're ready, because this...
Well, we see the Doctor sort of looting through some trash in a back alley.
Well, because he's trying to figure out where he remembers his face from.
Yeah. I guess it was Caecilius all along.
Yeah.
This episode aired on the same date that Fires of Pompeii took place on.
That's kind of weird.
Not 2014, but like August 23rd.
Yeah, I was going to say Fires of Pompeii took place on 23rd, 2014. And kind of assaults a homeless person.
Yeah, so this homeless guy is played by Elizabeth Sladen's husband.
Or widow at this point.
Yeah, widower.
They're just widow.
Widower is for males. That's the one like weird thing where the diminutive term is for men and the normal term is for women.
Women could be widowers too. I thought like widow and widower were both like gender neutral terms.
No. I mean, maybe they are used that way now. But it was all like historically, it's like widow.
You got to keep up with the English language now. We'll look it up in that supposedly superior Oxford dictionary.
I'll just look it up in Urban Dictionary.
You look up the Urban Dictionary definition for pineapple.
Is it just like grenade or?
It's just you should know what a pineapple is.
It's actually pretty funny.
Except that this is a digression, but the English language is the only language that I think it's pineapple that uses the word pineapple for pineapple, and like every other language has like a completely different but similar word for it. And English is like just a complete random outlier. It's a fruit, but I think it's pineapple, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe it is pineapple. I know how to say pineapple in like a few other languages other than English, and like thinking about it, they're all the same.
Yeah, and they're all completely different from pineapple. And that
word
is pretty similar through like pretty much every language except for English, where it's the pineapple.
Yeah, there are words that are cognates in every language, like tea and coffee, and I guess pineapple, except English. But
those damn English.
But anyway.
But Clara looks through the paper and she finds an advertisement for Impossible Girl.
We're skipping
lunchtime.
We're skipping how much the Doctor like kind of assaults this homeless guy, and then does assault him, but off screen because he steals his coat.
No, that's a completely different coat, and also the Doctor trades his watch for that coat. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he tells Clara that he bought it, and Clara's like, "You don't have money." And he's like, "I traded my watch for it." She's like, "But that was a nice watch," and he's like, "Yeah, I liked it."
I think, I do remember that. I think he traded the homeless guy the watch for the coat.
But it was a different coat than this homeless guy, though, because this homeless guy is wearing like a blue coat, and the doc shows up in a brown one.
Maybe it was just the lighting. It's definitely like a homeless guy's coat, because Clara mentions like
the smell.
Yeah, which I guess doesn't. I don't know. Whatever. But like he's very he's not nice to this guy. He's like
he's kind of all over the place.
Like, yeah, I really like Peter Capaldi's acting abilities so far.
He's
this when he says like, "Give me your coat."
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like a moment of the Doctor like being kind of
a jerk, not pushy,
like pushy, not scary, but like villainous in a way that we haven't really seen.
Well, they basically execute on the Sixth Doctor's character development they wanted to do with the 12th
Doctor.
Doctor.
Maybe never mind. So, we've seen him being kind of villainous with the Sixth Doctor.
Yeah, he literally strangled Perry.
Yeah.
So
they Clara, like you mentioned, receives this coded message in the newspaper, and she goes and meets the Doctor in, I forget what it's called, Monsini's family restaurant.
Which they kind of talk for a while before the Doctor points out that, well, this is what he basically calls, he says that the person who had to have placed the ad in the newspaper was probably an egomaniacal game player, and she's like, I agree. And then she's like,
Seventh Doctor.
And then she's like, when did you place this ad? And he's like, what? I thought you placed the ad. She's like, wait, so you were talking about me when you said that? And he's like, let's not worry about that. Let's worry about who placed this ad.
Yeah, because we skipped the scene where some guy gets killed by like, well, it's I guess it's the clockwork robots. Although the episode kind of leaves you wondering like who these.
I think it makes it pretty clear.
Well, I was curious throughout the whole thing. I was like, all right, who are these? Are they just random robots? Are they the Autons? Or the clockwork robots?
They're the clockwork robots.
Yeah, I guess.
They just replaced so much of themselves that they don't look the same anymore. The Doctor even points that out.
Kind of like the show itself.
Yeah.
We'll get there. So the rest of the people in the restaurant are robots, and when Clara and the Doctor try to leave, they can't.
Yeah. They get scanned for what body parts of theirs are good. Mention the Doctor's liver, I think, and his spleen, and then Clara's lungs.
Yeah, and there's a super villain-esque trap where like the entire table like kind of just has them fall down
through the floor.
And they're sort of in this underground chamber.
Right. Where the Clockwork Man is.
Right. This is the guy who killed the guy in the street.
Earlier.
And the Doctor kind of reveals what's going on here. He
kind of pieces together
dumps that they're stealing people's body parts and using them to replace
he just doesn't know why yet.
But then he escapes.
Well, him and Clara are running, and then the Doctor runs back. He's like, I've seen this all before. Where have I seen this before? Damn, can't remember. Stupid regeneration brain. Regeneration sickness. And then Clara goes back and drags him through the door, but then she gets trapped inside the door with the robot, and he's like, oh, gotta run. Sorry, I might need the screwdriver. I guess you just have to stay there. Bye. Turns out he just, like, I guess turns the first corner and hides himself as a clockwork robot, but...
Yeah, so this touches back to the scene with the guy in the alley where the Doctor says that there's no use in both of us being cold, so give me your coat.
The Doctor tells Clara there's no use in both of us getting caught, so he just leaves.
Right.
Although, again, he doesn't actually leave.
He just puts on a Matt Smith mask. Did you read that? That was a Matt Smith mask?
That's kind of weird. We only see it from behind, so I guess that makes sense.
We see it from, not straight on, but we see it like kind of from the side later on.
The 11th Doctor was the 12th Doctor all along. Whoa!
Apparently the production team didn't realize that was a Matt Smith mask, and they only realized after the fact.
Yeah, it's a fun little Easter egg, I guess.
I don't know why they have a Matt Smith like mask lying around.
Yeah, you kind of have to wonder.
Since they had the real Matt Smith like there. Also, are they allowed to like use his like? I mean, I guess he's not going to sue because it's not being used in like a malicious way.
He's in this episode,
yeah,
so
he is. Could have just had it be him.
I don't know how they'd film that ripping the mask open from behind scene. Then
CG
just rips his head open,
or just actually like rip his head off.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Just kill Matt Smith for the episode.
You only get one take.
Anyway, Clara's trapped in. She remembers what the doctor says about not breathing, and then she takes a deep breath.
Yeah.
And I tried to hold my breath for as long as she did.
Why would you do
And
that? It's
I
clearly
almost-
not in real time.
I think it is, from when she holds her breath to yeah, I think it is.
All right. So
I didn't make it. But yeah, I almost made it. I got right to where the red lights started flashing. And there were some yellow lights mixed in. And then she basically held her breath for maybe like 10 seconds longer than I did.
I didn't even try.
I regretted trying. It's like my brain really hurt after I did.
Yeah, well, you deprived your brain of oxygen.
But she makes it out okay. Actually, just kidding. She only makes it out of that room okay, and then she gets captured because she takes a deep breath.
Yeah, and then she like hallucinates the kids in her classroom. And then I forgot that they decided to make Clara an English teacher in Day of the Doctor. Kind of impressive that she became a teacher at only 27.
Not really. A lot of elementary, middle /
I
high
guess,
school
but she's at like a
teachers
prestigious,
are like 22 when they start.
prestigious private school.
Yeah, that's fairly common. I mean,
In the U.S., maybe.
yeah, I don't really know about Britain. But it's also one of the things that makes you question, like, should it really be that way?
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean,
Kind of have to wonder how good of a teacher Clara is, considering how much bickering she does with everyone in this episode.
Well, it looks like she can't control the class. It's her first day.
Yeah,
And
we meet Courtney Woods. That little girl who's like, do it. Yeah, she comes back.
Name? She had a name?
Yeah, she comes back later this season. So we find out her name later this season.
I guess this is Coal Hill School.
Yeah. Well, that's where she teaches.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, unless this is like her first day on the job at another school, and she's like, those incorrigible kids, maybe I should transfer to Coal Hill. But then she uses this sort of flashback memory to her advantage, because she's about to be either killed or tortured by the robots.
Clockwork Man, she's like, do it. He's like, okay, I'll do it. Watch me. And he doesn't do it. I don't really know why he doesn't do it.
He switches from death to like torture.
She's like, you're lowering your threats now. He's like, just tell us what we want to know. She's like, no, you answer my questions. Why are you killing people? He's like, we need to replace ourselves. We need to reach the promised land.
Yeah, it's a Steven Moffat story, so you know there's going to be some religious shit in it.
I guess, yeah.
Yep. You thought you were safe? You thought you were away from Steven Moffat's interest in religion, although promised land isn't necessarily a religious term. But it has that religious vibe to it.
At the end of this episode, it's pretty clearly supposed to be religious, so... Promised land may not be a religious term, but heaven is.
So anyway, Matt Smith is in the background. We're just a bald, like, Matt Smith, like, mask costume thing. And the 12th Doctor rips the face off, and it's Peter Capaldi.
Yes,
Caecilius.
Because Clara's like, if the Doctor's still the Doctor, he's going to be right behind me. So I have my back, please tell me I'm right. And he grabs her hand, and he's like, yep, you're right, it's me. I'm the Doctor. I'm going to blow this ship up if you do anything I don't like, Mr. Clockwork Man.
Yeah. What a heartwarming moment.
Was it?
I mean, no.
The more heartwarming moment was later on when she hugs him. That was the most heartwarming we got, and even that was like...
No, yeah, I mean, I thought I said that, like, sarcastically enough that it would be clear, but...
Well, you didn't.
It's not.
Surprised
step
you
up
didn't.
my sarcasm game.
Yep. The most dangerous game, you might say. Actually, don't know why you would say that.
So forget what happens. Oh, right, Vastra and Jenny, like, ninja themselves in.
And Strax just falls from the ceiling. And they start killing people, and the Doctor chases after the Clockwork Man because he goes to escape in the escape pod.
And it turns out, in a kind of disgusting twist, that the restaurant is hiding a balloon made of human skin.
Yeah. Yeah.
which inflates, and Up Style carries the
restaurant away.
The Doctor sits down with
Clockwork Man.
the Clockwork Man, and
They have
tries to
this kind of
discuss
weird
things.
meta scene where
The Doctor questions. He asks the Clockwork Man whether or not he's still the same person he was, thousands of years ago or whatever, because he's gone through so many incremental changes that he has nothing of his original self left.
he brings up basically the Ship of Theseus paradox.
Right. Which makes you wonder, has Doctor Who gone through the same process of incremental change?
I mean, yes.
Yeah, it has.
I don't think you can even I don't think you can challenge the assertion that it's gone through incremental change. I guess where the interpretation would lie is in, do you think it's unrecognizable from the original show or not? I would say yes, but
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I guess not totally unrecognizable.
There's
the core of the show is still there.
Yeah, I think if you were to show someone from the 60s a modern episode of Doctor Who, it might
They would
seem
be freaking mind blown.
Yeah, I guess. It might seem unrecognizable, but maybe we don't see it that way because of this byline, because it was just incremental change, if that makes sense.
Maybe that's why the Clockwork Man still sees himself as a clockwork droid.
Yeah.
The Doctor says that the Promised Land thing is just something he picked up from all the pieces of humans that he's added to himself.
Just to touch back on this, I know we mentioned this last week of the time travel-y stuff with the 11th Doctor really eases you into it. So definitely incremental change there.
Yeah, well, get ready for Time Heist.
Anyway, then they start fighting.
They don't really fight, though.
Yeah, they do.
They just kind of tussle each other around the room. The Doctor says that Moto's against his core programming and the robot's self-destructing is against my core programming.
Yeah, that's another thing with this episode. I mean, like we mentioned, they add an extra 30 minutes to this episode, but they just use it on stupid stuff like bickering and extending the fight scene and...
Well,
yeah.
We see down below that the Paternoster gang is having a hard time with it, so Clara tells him to hold their breath, and Jenny gives up 10 seconds in. She's like, I can't do this.
No, I thought it was Strax who lets go first.
No, it's definitely Jenny. Jenny's like, I can't do this, and Vash is like, it's okay, I can store extra air in my lizard lungs.
Yeah.
And then they, I guess, kiss.
Right. Yeah, that was the weird line, is Vastra telepathically tells Jenny that her lungs are made for storing oxygen, and I was like, aren't all lungs made for that?
When she's like, let's share. And they kiss.
Yeah.
And this apparently caused a lot of controversy on, I guess, conservative sectors of the internet. So, Doctor Who's pushing a gay agenda now.
This isn't the first, same-sex kiss in Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
It's the fourth... or something like that. So why single out this?
Yeah,
because it was I guess it was just because it was more of the focus.
Artsy, yeah.
Yeah. It was more French cinema. No, I'm just kidding.
And not like Doctor Who's always been progressive or anything, so... That's supposed to be sarcastic.
Just step up your sarcasm game.
Yeah, apparently I need to step it up too.
Yeah, just a strange thing to vilify.
Just realized vilify. Because he's a villain, I guess.
No, none of that was maybe, I don't know.
Prove me wrong.
I know there was some, I forget who this was. I'll put your Twitter link in the description, but someone on Twitter a month or two ago was telepathic Callie with the Callie capitalized, and that's where can't believe that Terry Nation would do that. And then according to Spacefall podcast, both Callie and from Blake Seven and Leela from Doctor Who are named after Leela Khalid, who was a terrorist in the 70s.
I was going to say, if it's the telepathically thing, then I wouldn't put it past Terry Nation to use villain, villa.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it does, like, whether he intended that to be the case or not, like, you say villa, and, like, all right, there's something in that of, like, villain, or, like, a villa, like a large country house.
Right, because that's what he was going for. Rest all, because all he does is drink alcohol and rest all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm saying, or like I said, whether that was what they were quote unquote going for or not, there's something of that. Like it evokes that sense.
Avon, because he's like Kermit the Frog.
Because he's a dirty dog. He's a cur.
Honestly, probably. Avon, because he was driving a, what is it, a Honda Avon, Toyota Avon, a model of car.
Where's our spin-off with Avon as like just a regular white-collar worker before he started robbing banks?
Or didn't he only rob one bank and get caught on his first attempt?
Yeah. Where's our like day job Avon like spin-off? It's like Avon sitting in traffic. Avon wondering what to have for dinner.
I mean, he'd just be working on that teleportation project.
Right. With Blake.
Both out in different sectors, and they never actually met. But anyway, the Clockwork Man falls out of the thing and impales
the window.
himself.
Yeah, I think we should make
the
it
door.
clear.
The door.
Yeah, door.
And gets unluckily impaled on this building spire.
Yeah.
And there's this kind of mystery here that you don't know if the doctor pushed him out or if he jumped out, because the doctor says, you realize one of us is lying about our core programming, and the robot's like, yep. The doctor's like, I think you know which one of us that is, and the robot's like, yep. But we don't see.
No, we don't.
I'm of the opinion that the Clockwork Man just jumped out.
Well, based on the other stuff that goes on in this episode, it would seem to be the 12th Doctor who pushed him out.
Right. I'm still of the opinion that the guy fell.
All right.
Not that it's really that important.
It seems pretty important for like the 12th Doctor's character, what they're sort of setting up here.
I guess. Missy brings this up later in this episode.
Yeah, so we're pretty much at the end now.
But we get the Clara thing.
Yeah, Clara has gone back into the employ of Vastra.
Yeah, because the doctor ditches. He's like, peace! Steven Moffat does Russell T, just like in Rose, when the doctor just gets in the TARDIS and leaves, and then comes back a minute later and is like, a surprise.
I guess. But Vastra...
There's a story set in there, by the way, with the doctor when he left here.
Yeah.
No, here in this episode, there's a story set here in this disappearance. I think there's another one set when he goes to get coffee between this story and the next. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, Vastra tells Clara that the doctor is going to be coming back, and then he does.
Right then. Impeccable timing.
They go to, modern Glasgow, actually.
Well, the doctor's trying to get Clara home, and he's like, I missed a little bit. Still haven't quite got the hang of this TARDIS thing again. And then Clara
actually confronts the 12th Doctor about, like, hey, like, you're different, and I wasn't expecting this, and, like, it's making me kind of...
The doctor's like, I'm not your boyfriend. Mad. She's like, I never thought you were my boyfriend. Really defensively, and like, The doctor's like, well, I never said it was your mistake.
Yeah. The 12th Doctor mentions that he's over 2,000 years old.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because, Clara's like, well, I never expected him to look old, and he still looks pretty damn young for, like, 2,000. Like, he looks maybe 50. What if he was actually just, like, an extremely decrepit, like...
Oh,
like really
just a skeleton.
Old. But then Clara gets a call from Matt Smith.
Well, the doctor's like, you should pick that up. And she's like, okay. And she goes out the TARDIS and it's like, hey, it's me. And she's like, hey, yeah, it's me. Who is this? And I guess the doctor. And she's like, why did you do it? Why did you change?
They have this sort of discussion.
Yeah, he kind of just tells her how he's probably really scared. The doctor is really scared and needs her.
Yeah, and does the 12th Doctor remember this discussion or not?
He says he remembers it. He comes out and he's like, so, what's your answer? And she's like, what? And he's like, he asked you a question. She's like, you shouldn't have been listening. And he's like, I didn't need to listen. That was me on the phone.
Yeah. So it seems as if this this problem that Clara has is resolved. But I guess I'll see what happens. Because they go off to get coffee or whatever.
Bootstrappy paradox thing here, too, because the doctor comes down and is like, is that him? Is that the doctor? And then the doctor on the phone, Matt Smith's doctor, 11th Doctor, says, oh, God, he sounds old. Am I old? Kind of have to wonder if he regenerates into being old because he heard himself be old on the phone.
Well, it's always been a question of how much the Doctor or any Time Lord controls their regeneration. It seems different based on which regeneration it is.
And which Time Lord it is. The Doctor just seems really bad at regeneration. Romano was like, I'm going to try on 4 different bodies before I settle on one. The Doctor goes into the TARDIS and it blows up and he just gets whatever happens.
So they go off, and then we get a scene in heaven, which turns out is just a garden.
You may not have noticed it, but this garden is filmed in the same garden as the garden from Amy's Choice.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Okay.
It was pretty obvious. And the character named Missy is there.
Yeah. This is our first introduction to Missy. The Doctor, before this, actually mentions that there's a woman out there trying desperately to keep the Doctor and Clara together, because he mentions the phone number that Clara got that brought them together.
Right.
And the ad in the newspaper.
Right, so that's sort of their, and I like this. It's always nice to have, just instead of like, well, let's go on to our next adventure, of having like, something there moving towards. And, in the latter half of Series 7, it was, all right, who's Clara? And now it's, all right, we got to find out who this person is who's manipulating things.
Yeah, and if you're watching the show, it's who's Missy?
Yeah.
Is it someone we've seen before? Is it an entirely new character?
I know.
Do you?
I think so.
I guess you'll find out.
But the clockwork man is there.
Yeah, and she's like, God, did he push you or did you fall? It was so difficult to tell.
Yeah, and we sort of get a scene with her
dancing around in heaven.
Yeah, dancing around, and then it ends.
We forgot to mention that they're confirmed clockwork droids because the Doctor pulls like a control circuit out of the escape pod. Room, restaurant.
Yeah, because the Doctor's trying to remember where he's seen them. And throughout the episode, I was like, all right, are they Autons? Or is it just like some sort of big red herring where it's like he thinks he's seen them, but he hasn't? And then he mentions the ship.
Yeah, from Girl in the Fireplace. Because he pulls out the control circuit and says SS Marie Antoinette on it. He's like, oh, the sister ship of the Madame de Pompadour.
Yeah, but I didn't get, like, I guess that is supposed to be explicitly like, all right, that's who these droids are. But, like, I didn't... When I, like, in that moment, I was like, all right, he's just speculating or something like that. Or, like, he's piecing together this info, but it's not for sure. That's what I thought, but I guess it is, like, an explicit thing. But whatever, doesn't matter.
And then they leave. We get a next time trailer that holds off on spoiling the Daleks till the very end of the trailer, and then it's like, well, why'd you even try? The name of next week's bloody episode is Into the Daleks, so...
Yeah. I didn't get from the preview that they were going into the Dalek until I saw the title of the next episode, and then I was like, oh, because the Doctor says we're going to the most dangerous place in the universe. And I was like, whoa, where's that? And I found out that it was inside of a Dalek.
Yep. It's kind of mind-blowing when I actually watched that episode, because I didn't figure it out till I watched the episode, because they don't tell you the episode title until you watch the episode, so it wasn't like I had anything to go off of leading into the episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the beginning of a new era.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I kind of want to refrain from judgment, because it seems, one, as if we haven't gotten the real 11th Doctor yet.
12th.
Sorry, 12th. Maybe we haven't gotten the real 11th yet either. Maybe it's all just a humor.
No, I think we're pretty sure on that one.
And it also seems as if this thing with Clara is maybe going to be either toned down or resolved from here on out.
Yeah, well, the 12th Doctor at the end of the episode, when he puts on his outfit, his proper outfit, is a lot more toned down than the kind of manic 12th Doctor that we got for the rest of the episode.
Right. Whoa.
I liked this episode. I didn't think it was great or that good, though.
I didn't like it that much.
It wasn't that good of an introduction story either.
No, I don't think so either, especially because of how much it focused on Vastra and Jenny and, to an extent, Strax.
I did think it was all right, though. Like, it wasn't bad.
It was
in my
okay.
opinion.
One thing I did like about it, and I hope this continues, and I know we talked about this in the 11th Doctor retrospective, is that the show kind of in the 11th Doctor's era lost its cartoony vibe. And it feels like some of those cartoon antics are back. Like with the Doctor falling through the tree and like the like bonk sound effects and
There
stuff
was a
like
bonk
that.
sound effect when he fell asleep. That was kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Although there's a funny kind of meta line in this where the Doctor mentions that he accidentally brought the dinosaur due to his TARDIS, and he's like, "That's how I usually meet girls." And I was like, "Oh, haha, I see what you're doing there, Moffat."
Why is that a...
Because that's how he usually meets his companions, which are all girls, because he, quote, accidentally brings them along on the TARDIS.
Yeah, well, so was the dinosaur was female,
Yeah.
according to Vastra. But yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily like this episode, but I like the promise of like this new era.
Yeah.
This new era where Doctor Who can actually be funny again.
Well, I thought this episode was pretty solidly middle of the road, I think.
Yeah, it's just another one in the pile to me.
There's also a reference to the Fourth Doctor's scarf when the Doctor's trying to find something to keep himself warm. He's like, "Oh, yes, big long knitted scarf." And he's like, "Oh, wait, no, I've moved on from that." I was like, haha. A couple other meta things, too, that I want to mention about the 12th Doctor talking with the Clockwork Man. He's like, "I bet you can't even remember where you got that face." And he holds up this kind of reflective dish, and then you also see that the other side's reflective, and he sees his own face in it. Kind of, he's not just talking about the Clockwork Man not knowing where he got his face, he's talking about himself as well.
Yeah, I mean, an entire thing in this episode is that he says he's seen his face before and he doesn't know where. I don't know if that's just a reference to Caecilius or if there's going to be more to that.
I'm not going to spoil anything for you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also that other character in the Doctor Who universe played by Peter Capaldi in Torchwood.
Maybe he's referring to that.
I think he was like the villain of that season. I think. I don't know. We're going to watch Torchwood at some point, so I guess we'll find out when we get there. So we have an email this week. Read Time of the Doctor review. From JB Anderson again. "Greetings, lads. Thanks for reading my email and for your take on the Clorodox. You certainly put more thought on how to resolve it than Steven Moffat ever did, and your theories were pretty well thought out and worth considering. Your theory that the splinters of Clara had replaced others in the Doctor's time stream will no doubt be explored when Big Finish eventually releases their series of the Adventures of Clara Oswald box sets. You hit the nail on the head, Dylan, when you said that Moffat thought he was more clever than he actually was, and as a result overextended himself when writing the story. Sadly, this trend will continue for the next 3 series. Keon had questioned how Clara's dad had hooked up with a new girlfriend soon after Clara's mom died, although I don't recall if it was established how old Clara was when her mom died. I can speak from personal experience that it does happen. My mom passed away after being married to my dad for 41 years, and not 6 months after she died, my mom started a new relationship with a woman who happens to have the same first name as my mom. Creepy, right? And eventually married her several years later. While I was in LA a few weeks ago, I picked up a DVD set of all the Capaldi episodes for less than $40, which was a bargain I could not pass up, even though the box side had the wrong Doctor Who logo, the current one associated with Jodie Whittaker. So I will be rewatching these episodes along with you. I've already given my take of Series 8 on my own podcast, Who 37, a Doctor Who podcast, but if you're interested in having a guest for future episodes, drop me a line. Thanks, JB.
Yeah, thanks, JB.
Yeah, thanks, JB.
I think when you said that we put more thought into the whole Clorodox thing, you meant Dylan did, because I just said, like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, also, I was making those theories up as we were recording, so that's kind of concerning on Moffat's part.
It's okay. I'm sure Moffat was making up, things as he typed his early 90s posts. And then didn't revise them as he went back and just took them all and put them into the show.
For his show. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure we'd love to have you on as a guest. I'm going to only talk for myself, though. I'm not going to talk for Keon in this aspect.
Yeah, no, that would be pretty cool, in my opinion, as well.
So we'll be dropping you a line shortly. We'll be dropping you a line asking if you have any preferences out there. We should do more crossover. It's been like...
Yeah, what we really...
4 months? Was Asylum of the Daleks with RG? Was the last one we did?
It was longer than that.
It was Asylum of the Daleks. So however long it took us to get through that season. 4 months.
That was like the end of last year.
4 months. It's April, which is the 4th month of the year.
But like, it feels a little longer. It's like the end of April. And that was like, I think the tail end of... I don't remember actually when that was.
January, February, March, April. That's 4 months.
Yeah, but when did we watch Asylum of the Daleks? It was like the tail end of 2018.
Yeah, 4 months ago. Because a month ago was the end of March. 2 months ago was the end of February. 3 months ago was the end of January. 4 months ago was the end of December.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Huh. Weird. When did we watch that, though?
It was like final 2 weeks of December, I think.
Huh, okay. Well, the last, 2 weeks has felt like 10 years to me anyway, so... they say time speeds up when you get old, or the older you get. I'm experiencing the opposite, but hey, whatever. We don't have to get into that.
Anyway, thank you, JB, for emailing us, and I'll definitely send you a line about appearing on the show with us. And on that note, if anybody else would like to email us, you can reach us at doctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry events, love letters, your thoughts on the Doctor, the 12th Doctor, and Clara's bickering with everyone. You can find us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter next time we're watching Into the Dalek. But until then, the end.